The SACP is wrapping up its 8th Provincial Congress in Bloemfontein this morning. The Congress will pay specific attention to the socio-economic challenges in the province and the ongoing challenge of repositioning itself. New leadership will also be elected, and the Congress will work out the provincial contribution to the 15th National Congress in July. We speak to the first Deputy Secretary of the SACP Solly Mapaila and the newly elected Provincial Chairperson. SABC News reporter Aphumelele Mdlalane is on the story, and now we cross to her for more on this. Aphumelele, great to have you on the agenda this morning. What's happening there where you are?
Like it did indicate, it is their last day rounding off the Congress that they had that took place for 3 days. Like it did indicate, there's been many issues that of course they deliberated on, given that also the political landscape of the Free State, as we know, as their alliance partner, they always have to weigh in here and there. And also on their statement, they have outlined as to how do they feel about the latest political landscape within the province. But like I did mention, I would like to bring upon the first Deputy Secretary, Dr. Solly Mapaila. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. You've been here for the weekend, and you know the main issues, burning issues within the province. Let's start about the relationship you have with the ANC, specifically in the province. They've also mentioned that they are ready to go for the conference, given that there's been many political instability. What is your take on that?
Well, firstly, I think the province can deal with the matter relating to the relationship with the party and the ANC in the province, as well as COSATU. From the reports that they've given us, the relationship have significantly improved because they were taking a stock of the last 6 years of where the relationship come from a very difficult moment where you know that the Communist Party here was taking responsibility in the fight against corruption, and that created serious difficulties given what was happening in the province. But at the moment, I think relationships have extremely improved, and they're doing quite well in terms of coordinating each other's activities and complementing the work of each of the components of the alliance. Including yesterday, when there was the Legima campaign launched here, the party fully participated and supported that particular process. Only that, of course, they were at the Congress, but the launch was fully supported because they've always been calling for the ANC to reach out to the mass base, to talk to the people constantly, because it's an organization of the people that represent the interest of the people. So that connection was very important, and the Communist Party, even at national level, support that path.
Talking about the Letsima launch, President was here, of course, yesterday. Would you say that is a step to the right direction in terms of rebuilding, uniting as a national picture?
Yes, that's what is required, because one of the fundamental tasks of the ANC is not just to represent its policies. It derives its policies from the masses, from the people. So engaging with the people as the party gives it that opportunity to understand the basic things that the people are indicating, so that they can convert that into their own policies. And when they are in government, then they say we're the people's representative. They mean it, because they've been with the masses, and the masses have indicated their needs. So that's a very, very good program. It should be complemented equally also in government. But I think overall, South Africa, we know the many challenges and the many problems that we face. We just need a focus in government, even a focus in the party, to attack those problems. The problems of the capitalist economy that is unable to create jobs, that is creating deeper inequalities, even along racial lines, along gender lines. And of course, the government sometimes has endorsed this neoliberal economic outlook that doesn't actually reverse these challenges that we face. So we need the ANC now, as it engages with the community, to appreciate the dismal failures of the capitalist system as an economy to resolve our challenges, and therefore to begin to do more investment in the public sector that should now shoulder more responsibility to issues of job creation, fighting poverty and unemployment.
Dr. Mapaila, you have rightly mentioned about the challenges that are being faced. Let's deal with the issue of Eskom. We've heard with the latest developments, the board member, Busisiwe Mavuso, of course, talking about the issue of Eskom, that ANC also is responsible with what has been happening. We've seen residents in the country, they are quite not happy. On social media, they've taken their dissatisfaction there. What is your position on the issue of Eskom?
Well, firstly, what she said is absolute balderdash. It's completely ignorant of the facts. But of course, the problem is that the challenge that we have had with Eskom over the last few decades has been, firstly, the state's inability to invest in broader public infrastructure and the corruption that were brought about in some of the institutions. For instance, the Medupi project. If you remember, Medupi project's initial amount when they started that project and the final amount, that created a huge debt for Eskom. Corruption that was there, which we fought against, particularly as the Communist Party, led by the Guptas and others and their associates and so forth. All of that, these are matters that the law should just take its course. And of course, this inclination that private sector must come in, and therefore you begin to weaken public institutions so that we only see private sector institutions as alternatives, and that has created bigger problems that we face with Eskom. Eskom can be turned around with proper management of individual stations, individual plants of Eskom. If they are properly managed, they can contribute immensely to the well-being of Eskom, and we should not be suffering load shedding as a country. And of course, we need extra investment given the dynamics, the expansion of our country and the access of electricity by the people. Of course, what I also believe this board member failed to appreciate is that as a board member, she has a duty to contribute in the turning around of Eskom. For instance, she didn't bring about whether the current policies are weak policies, and therefore the ANC, that's where the ANC plays its role from a policy space because it's in government. But the rest, I think, is just the inability to execute mandate. And you don't just simply because we have failed to do that have an easy way out. And I think that the ANC itself must be careful that it's not shouldering responsibility for weak deployees.
The issue of climate change, we see the natural disaster that is unfolding in KZN. What is your contribution to this? And we've heard also that ANC is not seen to be visible on the ground as a partner. What is your take and the role that you are playing in KZN in terms of relieving and helping those affected?
The entire alliance has been hard at work through communities. I've seen some of the snippets of different areas where beyond government, the alliance has been hard working with the communities from day one. And I think obviously from the Communist Party, we were a bit surprised by the manner in which government responded to that disaster. We think that initially the response was quite disjointed, disorganized, uncoordinated, and very poor. That doesn't reflect the fact that we are living in a disaster-prone era. For instance, the deployment of the army came quite late. Understanding the capacity what the army should have, not perhaps what it has, but the capacity that it should have. For instance, some of the basic complaints were about people not having bridges that were washed away. The army is able to do obstacle crossing. They can put up a quick bridge, do the crossing, send water to the people and so forth, that the people will stay for so long without having access to basic like water in particular. And of course, with a majority whose houses were destroyed, was quite a poor response. It was not reflective of how we responded to COVID-19, for instance. and I thought we have learned much from disaster, but we can improve. As a collective here, I think the Provincial Secretary spoke about this question. The Congress discussed this matter at length, including about solidarity that this province should actually give to our people in KZN, even the input from COSATU here, from the province. They were also raising this matter. So there's concern from the party structures across the board that what has befell the people of KwaZulu-Natal and the eastern front of our coastline, it's a national problem. And we also appreciate, by the way, government's intervention for the declaration of a national disaster. So there's comprehensive interventions. Of course, as we have said earlier, this intervention, government must always be ahead of NGOs, for instance. We can have, for instance, a situation where NGOs have more capacity for interventions of this nature on areas that should actually be in the purview of government. They should build that capacity. That is why building public capacity remains a critical economic matter. We don't have to rely exclusively on the private sector. Because climate change, as you know, because of heavy carbon emission, we're going to be heavily affected over the next few years. Equally, because of the rapacious capitalist system in its production method that do not respect the environment, do not respect nature, they cause all these problems, and they are not taking responsibility. So we have to take responsibility as a state and build that capacity as a state, and not wait for the capitalists themselves. For instance, they come out, some of the capitalist bosses, they come out in this thing, create themselves as heroes when they are the actual cause of the problem that we face as humanity today.
So basically, Ndade Mapaila, you're appreciating all the work done, also by the intervention by the government. However, you're saying it was a bit late.
It was disjointed, but it has coordinated itself. We hope it can go well. But I think we should learn lessons on how to respond effectively to disasters. And I think that those KZN floods were a major sign of our weaknesses to such kind of response. In fact, in our report here, as a basic example, in our report here yesterday, before we started with the march in Bloemfontein, in my own city here, with our comrades of SAMA and the Communist Party. One of the things that they were raising in the memorandum is the fact that fire stations have been closed here. And the sewage system is not functioning. Imagine if there's a heavy rain and flooding here when those things are already not functioning. So it's this issue of lack of investment in public infrastructure that is creating problems for us.
Coming back to the province, what is expected today as you've been here for 3 days? We know that there was an election of leadership and additional members. What is the vision of the province with this Congress?
Well, the Provincial Secretary, Comrade Stofile, is here. The officials were elected yesterday unanimously by Congress, which is quite exciting for us. This is our 4th Congress. No brouhahas, no crisis, sense of good discipline and unity within the party structures. We are happy about that. We hope we can contribute this unity to the ANC, particularly to the ANC in this province that has been quite weakened. And as you know, when the ANC is weaker, it weakens the entire alliance forces, and also it weakens social and mass mobilization and the capacity of our movement as a whole, because it's at the helm of this liberation movement. So what we have seen here is quite encouraging. We are happy with that. The unity of the Communist Party, the focus on programs, the interventions. They are dealing with a wide range of issues, ranging from stock thefts, from crime, from how to create jobs. They are dealing with every other thing, including the political space. So we are happy with progress so far, and we are hoping that the last component of election of other provincial executive committee members will also go well.
Thank you so much, Sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is Ndade Solly Mapaila. Of course, giving us a picture, the national picture of socio-economic challenges, deliberating on what is happening in the KZN, appreciating the intervention by government, though he is saying that it's supposed to be, the government has to go back to the drawing board and make sure that come in future when these disasters are happening, we should be combat ready. And also mentioning with the issue of Eskom that there shouldn't be just the people that are making their, of course, comments without having to contribute contribute on the policies on Eskom, and also coming to the province with this launch campaign is saying that yes, it will help assisting building better communities, and saying that the ANC has so much work that it has to do to gain the trust of the people, as of course we see here in the province that some members of residents rather, they are no longer having trust in the ruling party, saying that so much has been happening with the issue, of course, of service delivery, whereby they are saying that these are minor issues whereby the party was supposed to have been taking the opportunity and try to correct and self-correct, as he does indicate that as this province is saying that now is ready to go for the provincial conference. He says a lot needs to be done on the ground, but with the contribution that they have received from the interim provincial committee of the ANC paving their way to the conference, is saying that is appreciating and happy with that. But we are here today, and he is saying that they are happy to have chosen this leadership that will be assisting, of course, all the challenges that are faced by residents and also as the party here in the provinces. We also know that this SACP was, of course, dominating in Metsimahulu, where we know that some of the municipalities that are having major challenges. We'll just have to talk also to the leadership that has been elected today, that will be presenting, of course, the province, so that we can understand now on the ground as to what are their plans going forward, as there's been many challenges faced by the party as well as the alliance partners here in the province. It's back to you.